About 5 years ago, and I filmed Diplomatic Situation, which is a wonderful series, actually. It gives you a very good description of the development of diplomatic relations between China and the rest of the world after 1949 and up until the visit of Nixon. I recommend it. It's on YouTube. If anybody wants to look for it, have a look for it. Some of the acting is a bit rinky-dink, but the story is very interesting. Now, if I look over the website of Beijing Municipal Culture and Tourism Bureau, I see that one of the things that they're principally responsible for is the preservation of intangible cultural heritage. And I think that's a very important thing, because the most wonderful things about Beijing, for me, and the things that make me always want to go back there, are the intangible things. I was born and brought up in the north of England, in Yorkshire, where family was very important. People had a rather traditional outlook. You know, you were very serious about what you wanted to do with your life, and you paid particular attention to the partner that you wanted to do it with. And it was important that you married the right person and these kinds of things. And when I came back to Beijing after living in London, I found Beijing was a little bit like going home to the north. You know, I felt rather at home there because people were friendly. They were calmer because of the traditional culture, I think, made them calmer. And people were so friendly that often you'd speak to someone, you get to talking to someone. The last time I went to the bank in Lama Temple, I got talking to the bank assistant. She was so friendly that after a while I started to think she was like a member of my own family. And it was only when she told me if I entered my PIN number wrong one more time, she'd lock my account for 3 months, that I realised she was on the other side of a piece of bulletproof glass and she had all my money. Well, I got to know Beijing in the end. I lived there for 12 years and I got to know Beijing better than I did London, really. And one of the things about Beijing is there's this culture of eating out. I think it's traditionally Chinese, that people tended to eat in groups rather than privately. And I used to meet up with my friends all over London in different kinds of restaurants. I used to like the Sichuan restaurants, the Chongqing hot pot I like particularly, but also the Xinjiang restaurants where you eat mutton dishes with fresh naan bread, or there were Hunan restaurants and Hubei restaurants. 56 different racial minorities, 56 different ethnic minorities in China, and they all have their own cooking and they all have their own private dress. I had a wonderful dentist in Beijing, and he was from the Miao minority. And when he wasn't pulling teeth, he ran a Miao restaurant. It was really good down in Gulou. It's a very good place. I always had a feeling in China of the very strong presence of Chinese culture. You have the feeling of that 5,000 years of culture in this vast country which sort of radiates around you. I remember one of the teachers in the Shaolin Temple said to me, Chinese is an ocean. You've drunk a cupful, I've drunk a bucketful. And the Chinese is like that, you know. You might be able to get along in one part of the country and people might understand you in one part of the country, but if you go somewhere else, nobody has any idea what you're saying, or vice versa. But aside from these restaurants, of course, the one place everybody wants to see is the Forbidden City, and it's worth a visit. There are lots of other interesting attractions within walking distance of the Forbidden City. There's the Beijing Municipal Museum, more or less across the road. There's the National Centre for the Performing Arts, also more or less across the road, where I had the good fortune to see Kevin Spacey do Richard III. That was wonderful. And then if you go eastwards up Chang'an Avenue from the Forbidden City, there's the Grand Theatre where you can see Beijing Opera performed. But the Forbidden City, although the emperor used it as his offices, he didn't live there for most of the year. He lived in the old summer palace, Yuanmingyuan, and that was destroyed in 1860 by the Eight Powers Army, led by the British and the French. And the leader of the expedition was Lord Elgin. This beautiful site now, because of its historical importance, they never rebuilt it, but because of its historical importance, they have never built any other buildings over it, and they've made it into a grand park. And it's a very nice place to go and walk and do Tai Chi and play musical instruments. They have actually hung up loudspeakers in the quiet places now, so it's not as nice as it used to be. But I used to go and do Tai Chi there often when I was in Beijing. It was my favourite place. And about 20 years ago, China Television made a documentary film about the history of Yuemingyang, and I played Lord Elgin. I was a bit more portly then. And I played Lord Elgin, who gave the order to burn the place down. Well, after I came back to Ireland, I discovered that the current Lord Elgin, the 13th Lord Elgin, is still alive and well in Scotland, and I wrote him a letter and I told him about this. And he wrote back and he said he still has a bottle of wine in his cellar that was given to his ancestor by Prince Kang. So I want to recommend, if you go to Beijing and if you have time, to look at some of the lovely parks like Yuemingyang, Ditan, Temple of Heaven. In Ditan Park, sometimes they have, if you're lucky, sometimes they have fairs and book fairs and markets. And another place, though, is Panjiayan, the antiques market at Panjiayan, which runs at the weekend. It's not all antiques, a lot of it is reproductions, but it's a very nice place to go and buy pottery, buy clothes, buy carved masks, you know, these things that are supposed to ward off evil. And another place I want to recommend is the area around Lama Temple. Go and have a look at Lama Temple. Go into the temple. You see people burning incense. It's still a very important thing for Chinese people to go to a temple and burn incense in a particular manner when they have, say, a big business opportunity coming up or something. When we used to start a film, they always used to burn incense in 3 sticks at a time and go through a little Buddhist ceremony. These things are cultural, you know, they don't imply any particular beliefs, but they're very charming. And so I recommend going and looking at the Lama Temple. Look at the area around the Lama Temple. There are shops that sell Tibetan tankas and wonderful varieties of Chinese tea. And then, of course, there are the hutongs. I lived in the hutongs for a couple of years, and that's a very interesting part of the city to go and have a look at. So that's it, really. I hope you'll all go to Beijing and have a good look and enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you.